Reading through the Bible in a year, October 21st, 2 Kings chapter 2, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, Daniel 6, and Psalms 112 through 113. And it came about when Yahweh was about to take up Elijah by whirlwind to heaven, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, please, for Yahweh has sent me as far as Bethel." But Elisha said, "As Yahweh lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. Then the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that Yahweh will take away your master from over you today?" And he said, "Yes, I know. Be still. Also, be silent." It can mean either thing. Elijah said to him, "Elisha, please stay here, for Yahweh has sent me to Jericho." But he said, "As Yahweh lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So they came to Jericho. The sons of the prophets who were at Jericho approached Elisha and said to him, "Do you know that today Yahweh will take away your master from over you?" And he answered, "Yes, I know. Be still or be silent." Then Elijah said to him, "Please stay here, for Yahweh has sent me over the Jordan." And he said, "As Yahweh lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. Now 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood opposite them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the Jordan. And Elijah took his mantle and folded it together and struck the waters, and they were divided here and there. So the two of them crossed over on dry ground. When they had crossed over, Elijah said to Elisha, ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you." And Elisha said, "Please, let a double portion of your spirit be upon me." He said, "You have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you will see me when I am taken from you, it shall be done for you. But if not, it shall not be so." And as they went along, and as they were going along talking, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, which separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind to heaven. And Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." He saw Elijah no more. Then he took hold of his own clothes and tore them in two pieces. This isn't like any specific thing, it's him mourning. He also took up the mantle of Elisha that fell from him and returned and stood by the bank of the Jordan. He took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him and struck the waters and said, "Where is Yahweh, the God of Elijah?" When he also had struck the waters, they were divided here and there, and Elisha crossed over. Now, when the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho opposite him saw him, they said, "The spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha." And they came to meet him and bowed themselves to the ground before him. And they said to him, "Please now, there are with your servants 50 strong men. Please let them go search for your master. Perhaps the spirit of Yahweh has taken him up and cast him on some mountain or into some valley." He said, "You shall not send." But when they urged him until he was ashamed, he said, "Fine, send." They sent therefore 50 men, and they searched 3 days, but did not find him. They returned to him while he was staying at Jericho, and he said to them, "Did I not say to you, do not go?" Then the men of the city said to Elisha, "Behold now, the situation of the city is pleasant, as my Lord sees it, but the water is bad and the land is unfruitful." And he said, "Bring me a new jar," and he put salt in it. So they brought it to him, and put salt in it. So they brought it to him. And he went out to the spring of water and threw the salt in it and said, "Thus says Yahweh, I have purified these waters, and there shall not be from there death or unfruitfulness any longer." So the waters have been purified to this day, according to the word of Elisha, which he spoke. Then he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going by the way, young lads came out from the city and mocked him, and said to him, "Go up, you bald head! Go up, you bald head!" Now, as a note, so we know that Elijah, from our reading yesterday, was a very hairy guy, right? So they're mocking Elisha. We've seen so far a bunch of different things. When Elisha struck the water and it parted, when he made the water good again. Now, when it says unfruitful, it means that basically the people who drank out of that water, they weren't having children. The animals weren't bearing, that kind of thing. So now anybody can drink the water and it's fine, right? That's another thing that a prophet would do. And here, people are coming up and mocking Elisha. It's basically saying, you are no Elijah. You're not even a hairy man. You should go up. Well, what does go up mean? How is it that Elijah died? He went up. So they're saying you should die as well. So they're not only mocking him, but they're mocking the God who he represents. Also, there's different readings, translations of the same text that say it was 42 young boys, like, toddlers who came out and said this. No. So this is basically men who are young and unmarried. Whereas, there were some people who got married as young as 12. Typically, it was a little bit older than that, but these are basically just unmarried men who are coming out. Perhaps they are married, but they're just very young. So, when he looked behind him and saw them, he cursed them in the name of Yahweh. And 2 female bears came out of the woods and tore up 42 lads of their number. And he went up from there to Mount Carmel. And from there he returned to Samaria. Now, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. There's a really great article in the center section here. Strongly recommend that you pause and read it. Let's go. Excuse me. Paul continues now. Now we request you, brethren, with regard to the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our gathering together to him, that you not be quickly shaken from your composure, or be disturbed either by a spirit, or by a messenger, or a letter, as if from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord had already come. This is Jesus' return. Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Do you not remember that while I was still with you, I was telling you these things? And you know what restrains him now, so that in his time he will be revealed. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he is taken out of the way. Good, make sure to lose notes here. Continuing on. Verse 8. Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth, and bring an end to an end by the appearance of his coming. That is, the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with all the descriptions of wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. For this reason, God will send upon them a deluding influence, so that they will believe what is false, in order that they may all be judged who did not believe the truth, but took pleasure in wickedness. But we should always give thanks to God for you, brethren, beloved by Yahweh, or beloved by the Lord, because God has chosen you from the beginning for salvation, through sanctification by the Spirit, and faith in the truth. For it was for this he called you through our gospel, that you may gain the glory of our Lord Jesus Christ. So then, brethren, stand firm and hold to the traditions which you were taught, whether by word of mouth or by letter from us. Now may our Lord Jesus Christ himself and God our Father, who has loved us and given us eternal comfort and good hope good hope by grace, comfort and strengthen your hearts in every good work and word. Now Daniel chapter 6. It seemed good to Darius to appoint 120 satraps over the kingdom, that they would be in charge of the whole kingdom, and over them 3 commissioners, of whom Daniel was one, that these satraps might be accountable to them, and that the king might not suffer loss. Then this Daniel began distinguishing himself among the commissioners and satraps, because he possessed an extraordinary spirit, and the king planned to appoint him over the entire kingdom. Then the commissioners and satraps began trying to find ground of accusation against Daniel in regard to government affairs. But they could find no ground of accusation or evidence of corruption, inasmuch as he was faithful, and no negligence or corruption was to be found in him. Then these men said, "We will not find any ground or accusation against this Daniel unless we find it against him with regard to the law of his God." Then these commissioners and satraps came by agreement to the king and spoke to him as follows: "King Darius, live forever. All the commissioners of the kingdom, the prefects, the satraps, the high officials, and the governors have consulted together that the king should establish a statute and enforce an injunction that anyone who makes a petition to any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days shall be cast into the lion's den. O king, now establish the injunction and sign the document so that it may not be changed, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be revoked." King Darius signed the document, that is, the injunction. Now when Daniel knew that the document was signed, he entered his house. Now in his roof chamber he had windows open toward Jerusalem. And he continued kneeling on his knees 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks before his God, as he had been doing previously. Then these men came by agreement, and found Daniel making petition and supplication before his God. Then they approached and spoke before the king about the king's injunction. "Did you not sign an injunction that any man who makes petition to any god or man besides you, O king, for 30 days, is to be cast into the lion's den?" The king replied, "Well, yeah, that statement is true, according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be revoked." Then they answered and spoke before the king. "Daniel, who is one of the exiles of Judah, pays no attention to you, O king, or to the injunction which you signed, but keeps making his petition 3 times a day." As soon as the king heard this judgment, or this statement, he was deeply distressed and set his mind on delivering Daniel, and even even until sunset, he kept exerting himself to rescue him. He realized that this whole thing had been concocted just to attack Daniel. Then these men came by agreement and said to the king, "Recognize, O king, that it is a law of the Medes and the Persians that no injunction or statute which the king establishes may be changed." Then the king gave orders, and Daniel was brought in and cast into the lion's den. And the king spoke and said to Daniel, "Your God, whom you constantly serve, will himself deliver you." And a stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of the nobles, so that nothing would be changed in regard to Daniel. Then the king went off to his palace, and he spent the night fasting, and no entertainment was brought in before him, and his sleep fled from him. Then the king arose at dawn, at the break of the day, and went in haste to the lion's den. When he had come near to the den, to Daniel, he cried out with a troubled voice. The king spoke and said to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to deliver you from the lions?" And Daniel spoke to the king, "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they have not harmed me, inasmuch as I was found innocent before him. And also toward you, O king, I have committed no crime." Then the king was very pleased and gave orders for Daniel to be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. The king then gave orders, and they brought those men who had maliciously accused Daniel, and they cast them, their children, and their wives into the lion's den. And they had not reached the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Then Darius the king wrote to all the peoples, nations, and men of every language who were living in all the land, "May your peace abound. I make a decree that in the dominion of my kingdom men are to fear and tremble before the God of Daniel, for he is the living. For he is the living God and enduring forever. And his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed, and his dominion will be forever. He delivers and rescues and performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has also delivered Daniel from the power of the lions." So this Daniel has enjoyed success in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Concluding today in Psalms 112 through 113. Praise Yahweh. How blessed is the man who fears Yahweh, who greatly delights in his commandments. His descendants will be mighty on the earth. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his house, and his righteousness endures forever. Light arises in the darkness for the upright. He is gracious and compassionate and righteous. It is well with the man who is gracious and lends. He will maintain his cause in judgment, for he will never be shaken. The righteous will be remembered forever. He will not fear evil tidings. His heart is steadfast, trusting in Yahweh. His heart is upheld. He will not fear, until he looks with satisfaction on his adversaries. He has given freely to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. His horn will be exalted in honor. The wicked will see it and be vexed, and he will gnash his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked will perish. Psalm 113. Praise Yahweh. Praise, O servants of Yahweh. Praise the name of Yahweh. Blessed be the name of Yahweh, from this time forth and forever. From the rising of the sun to its setting, the name of Yahweh is to be praised. Yahweh is high above the nations. His glory is above the heavens. Who is like Yahweh, our God, who is enthroned on high, who humbles himself to behold the things that are in heaven and in the earth? He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with the princes of his people. He makes the barren woman abide in the house as a joyful mother of children. Praise Yahweh. All right, that's it. That's all the reading and all of the notes for today. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold the word of the Lord.